But for a select few people, it became reality. And it all revolves around a single coin, a humble, overlooked 2009 Lincoln Cent. The log cabin design with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just another penny, copper-colored, lightweight, easy to ignore, easy to spend. But what if I told you that hidden within this seemingly common coin are rare variations, minting anomalies, and microscopic details that have driven collectors into bidding wars, pushing its value toward a staggering $1 million in pristine condition? Now ask yourself, because this is not just a coin. It is a silent lottery ticket disguised as pocket change. And tonight, you are going to learn exactly what to look for. The story begins in 2009, a historic year for American coinage. To celebrate the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the U.S. Mint released 4 special reverse designs on the Lincoln Cent, each representing a chapter of Lincoln's life. But among them, one design stood out. The log cabin. A simple wooden structure, symbolizing Lincoln's humble beginnings, a life born in hardship, rising toward greatness. It was meant to honor history. But something unexpected happened along the way, something the public wasn't supposed to notice. Because within certain batches of these coins, subtle errors began to appear, errors so small, most people would never see them. But collectors did, and once they noticed, everything changed. Now here's where the mystery deepens. Most 2009 log cabin pennies were struck in Philadelphia, meaning they carry no mint mark. That alone is not rare, but within this massive production, a handful of coins slipped through quality control, carrying anomalies that transformed them from 1-cent pieces into life-changing discoveries. We're talking about double dies, where the design appears slightly duplicated, creating a ghost-like shadow around the lettering. We're talking about off-center strikes, where the entire design is misaligned, as if the coin itself shifted during creation. We're talking about die cracks, raised lines slicing through Lincoln's cabin, almost like scars frozen in metal. And then there are the ultra-rare high-grade specimens, coins that were never circulated, coins that somehow survived, untouched, flawless, preserved in near-perfect condition. These are the coins that ignite bidding frenzies. Because in the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A worn coin might be worth a few dollars. That's where the numbers start to climb. Hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in extreme cases, approaching $1 million. Now imagine this: 2 identical coins, same year, same design, same origin. Point one is scratched, faded, passed through countless hands. The other, pristine, sharp edges, mirror-like surfaces, every detail intact. To the untrained eye, they look the same, but to collectors, one is ordinary, the other is a treasure. And here's the part that makes this story even more unbelievable. Some of these valuable coins were found in circulation. Not in vaults, not in private collections, but in everyday change, from grocery stores, gas stations, loose jars sitting on kitchen counters, which raises a chilling question. That thought alone has driven thousands of people to start checking their change, searching through old jars, revisiting coins they once ignored. Because the truth is, you don't need to be rich to find a valuable coin. You just need to be aware, and awareness is what separates the lucky from the regretful. Now let's go deeper. First, examine the date carefully. You're looking for 2009. That's your starting point. Next, check for the log cabin design on the reverse. Not the shield, not the memorial, the cabin. That rustic structure is your gateway into this hidden world of value. Then, look beneath the date. If there is no mint mark, you're holding a Philadelphia issue. Again, common at first glance, but don't stop there. This is where most people make a critical mistake. They stop too soon. Instead, you need to inspect the coin under magnification, because the real secrets are microscopic. Look at the lettering. Check the word liberty. Check "I in God we trust." Even the smallest distortion can mean everything. Then move to the cabin itself. Look for cracks, raised lines that shouldn't be there. Look at the edges of the coin. Every detail matters. Every imperfection could be the clue that turns a penny into a payday. And here's the twist: some of the most valuable coins don't look dramatic at all. They don't scream for attention. They whisper, quietly, subtly, waiting for someone patient enough, curious enough, to notice. Now imagine the moment you're sitting at your table. A small pile of coins in front of you. You pick one up, almost absent-mindedly. Then you see it. Something feels different. You lean closer. Your heart starts to race. That moment, that possibility, is what drives collectors. It's not just about money, it's about discovery. The thrill of uncovering something hidden in plain sight, and the 2009 log cabin penny has become one of the most talked about coins for exactly that reason. Because it blurs the line between ordinary and extraordinary. Now let's talk numbers. While most of these pennies are worth just a few cents, certain rare examples, especially those with strong errors and top-tier grading, have reached astonishing valuations. Collectors have paid thousands, tens of thousands, and in extreme high-grade cases valuations have approached the $1 million mark. Not because the coin is made of gold, not because it's ancient, but because it is rare, desirable, and nearly impossible to find in perfect condition. That's the formula. Scarcity plus demand equals value, and when both reach their peak, the results can be unbelievable. But here's the reality most people don't want to hear. The odds are slim. Not every 2009 penny will make you rich. Not every coin is special. But that's exactly what makes the search so powerful. Because the possibility exists, and sometimes, that's all it takes. One coin, one discovery, one moment that changes everything. Because somewhere out there, right now, a rare 2009 log cabin penny is still circulating. Still waiting, still unnoticed. And it only takes one person to find it. One person to recognize what others missed. One person to turn a single cent into something extraordinary. Because the truth is, fortunes don't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes, they come disguised as something you've held 1,000 times before. Something small, something simple, something you almost threw away. But hidden within ordinary circulation, there exists a coin so rare, so misunderstood, that collectors have been known to pay staggering amounts just to own it. And today, we're uncovering the truth behind one of the most mysterious and valuable coins ever quietly released into the public. The 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. A simple copper penny. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile. A date you've probably seen hundreds of times before. No mint mark. Nothing flashy. Nothing obvious. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous to ignore. Because hidden within a small number of these coins is an error so dramatic, so unmistakable once you know what to look for, that it has transformed a 1-cent piece into a potential $1 million discovery. But here's the twist. Most people never notice it. They spend it. They toss it in jars. They overlook it without a second thought. And just like that, a fortune slips through their fingers. The answer lies in a rare and fascinating phenomenon known as a double die error. But not just any double die. This is one of the most famous and dramatic examples in American coin history. The 1972 double die obverse. And if you're holding one, you don't need luck anymore, you're already holding the jackpot. Let's go back for a moment. The year is 1972. The United States Mint is producing millions upon millions of Lincoln cents to keep up with demand. Everything is routine, efficient, controlled. But behind the scenes, something goes wrong. A die, the metal stamp used to imprint the coin's design, becomes misaligned during its creation. Not slightly, not subtly. Dramatically. So when coins are struck using this flawed die, the design doesn't appear once. It appears twice. Shifted, distorted, almost like a shadow, but sharper, bolder. A ghost image frozen in metal. And here's where things get interesting. Unlike many minor mint errors that require magnification to detect, this one can be seen with the naked eye if you know where to look. The word liberty appears doubled. In God we trust shows clear separation in the lettering. Even the date, 1972, carries the unmistakable signs of duplication. This isn't a subtle mistake, it's a screaming anomaly. And yet, thousands of these coins entered circulation before the error was discovered. Thousands. Now imagine that for a second. Imagine how many passed through hands, through pockets, through cash registers, through everyday transactions. How many were spent on coffee, groceries, gas, and never recognized for what they truly were. That's the kind of rarity we're talking about. The kind that hides in plain sight. The kind that rewards the observant and punishes the unaware. But here's where the story takes an even more shocking turn. Not all 1972 no-mint mark pennies are valuable, and in fact, most of them are worth exactly 1 cent. So what separates a $1 million coin from a worthless one? Precision, detail, and a trained eye. Because the true 1972 double die obverse is not the only variety out there. There are weaker versions, lesser-known duplicates, coins that look similar but don't carry the same value. Collectors categorize them carefully. They study the spacing of the letters, the thickness of the doubling, the exact position of each element. It's almost like decoding a secret language. And if you misread it, you could mistake a fortune for pocket change. But if you get it right, everything changes. High-grade examples of this coin, those preserved in near-perfect condition, have shocked the market. Collectors have battled fiercely over them. Prices have climbed into the hundreds of thousands. And in the most exceptional cases, whispers of valuations reaching up to $1.1 million have circulated among elite numismatists. Let that sink in. 0.1 cent, becoming $1 million. Not through investment, not through time, but through a single moment of recognition, a single decision to look closer, and suddenly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Now here's the question you need to ask yourself. That thought alone has driven countless collectors to dig through old jars, inherited coin collections, forgotten drawers, because the truth is, these coins are still out there. They haven't all been found. They haven't all been claimed. Some are sitting quietly, waiting for someone to notice the doubling in liberty, waiting for someone to pause instead of spending, waiting for someone like you. But identifying one isn't just about luck, it's about awareness. Start with the date and mint mark beneath the year, which means it was produced in Philadelphia. Then look closer. Focus on the lettering, and if the answer is yes, you may be holding something extraordinary. But don't rush, because condition matters. A worn coin might still be valuable, but a pristine one, that's where the real magic happens. Sharp details, clean surfaces, minimal scratches. These are the qualities that turn a rare coin into a record-breaking one, and this is where patience becomes your greatest weapon. Because the moment you think you've found one, the journey is just beginning. Verification, authentication, grading. Each step brings you closer to the truth, and the stakes couldn't be higher, because getting it wrong could mean losing thousands. Getting it right could mean changing your life forever. Now imagine this, you're going through an old box. Maybe it belonged to a parent, a grandparent, or even yourself. You find a small stack of pennies. Nothing unusual. But then, one catches your mint mark. You remember something, you look closer, your heart starts to race. The letters, they're doubled, clear, bold, unmistakable. That moment, everything changes. That box is no longer ordinary. That coin is no longer just copper, it's possibility, it's opportunity. It's a hidden treasure waiting decades to be discovered. And here's the reality most people never consider. Opportunities like this don't announce themselves. They don't come with flashing lights or warning signs. They appear quietly, disguised, ordinary, until someone chooses to see them differently. That's the difference between those who find treasures and those who spend them. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Don't assume it's worthless. Because history has already proven that a single coin can rewrite a life. The 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent isn't just a piece of currency. It's a reminder that value is often hidden, that fortune doesn't always look like fortune, and that sometimes the greatest discoveries are the ones we almost miss. So check your pockets, check your jars, check every coin that crosses your path, because somewhere out there, right now, $1 million penny is still in circulation. And the only question left is, because right now, somewhere in your home, in a dusty jar, a forgotten drawer, or even in your pocket. There could be a single penny quietly waiting to change your life forever. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary. Most people would spend it without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific version of the 1970 Lincoln Cent, with no mint mark, has been linked to values reaching up to $1.2 million in top condition? Yes, a single cent, not gold, not rare jewelry, not a winning lottery ticket, but a penny. Millions of these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight. This is not just a story about money. This is a story about hidden treasure, missed opportunities, and the one small detail that separates a worthless coin from a life-changing discovery. So before you ignore your spare change ever again, you need to hear this, because by the end of this video, you might never look at a penny the same way again. The year is 1970. America is in a time of change. The Vietnam War dominates headlines. The economy is shifting, and the United States Mint is producing billions of coins to keep up with daily commerce. Among them, the Lincoln Cent. At first glance, the 1970 Lincoln penny seems completely ordinary. On the front, the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial, copper in color, lightweight, common, and for most 1970 pennies, that's exactly what they are, common. But hidden within that massive production, something unexpected happened. A subtle anomaly, a tiny imperfection, a mistake that was never supposed to exist. And that mistake is what turned an everyday penny into one of the most talked about coins among collectors. Here's where things get interesting. If you look closely at a 1970 Lincoln Cent with no mint mark, you might notice something unusual in the lettering. The words liberty, in God we trust, and even the date itself on certain rare examples appears slightly doubled. Not dramatically, not obviously, but just enough to make experienced collectors stop and take a second look. This is known as a double die error, and it's not just any error, it's one of the most mysterious and valuable minting mistakes in coin history. Because this wasn't damaged, it wasn't wear, and tear.it was created during the minting process itself. When the coin die received a misaligned impression, causing the design to appear doubled when struck onto the coin. Think about that for a moment. This error was born inside the mint at the very moment of creation, which means every coin with this feature is a rare artifact of a split-second mistake, that mistake that slipped through quality control and entered circulation. Now here's the twist. Not all doubled coins are valuable. In fact, many are minor, barely noticeable, and worth only a small premium. That's different, because the doubling can be sharp, clear, and highly desirable, especially on the date and lettering. And when you combine that with pristine condition, you get something extraordinary, coins that have sold for thousands, tens of thousands. And in the most extreme, perfectly preserved cases, values that have been reported to reach into the $1 million range, that a coin you could have received as change could be worth more than a luxury home. Now here's the question that should be racing through your mind, because here's what makes this story even more powerful. The 1970 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent wasn't a limited edition release. It wasn't locked away in collections from day one. It circulated. It moved from person to person, store to store, pocket to pocket, which means even today, decades later, these coins can still be found, but only by those who know what to look for. First, the date. Simple enough, but here's where many people make a mistake. They assume rarity means obvious differences, bright colors, strange shapes, dramatic defects. But in reality, the most valuable coins often hide behind subtle details, and the 1970 double die is no exception. You need to look closely at the lettering, pay attention to the word liberty. Now shift your focus to the date. The numbers 1, 9, 7, 0. That's the moment everything changes, because that tiny detail could be the difference between 1 cent and a fortune. But don't stop there. Condition matters, and in the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A heavily worn coin, scratched, faded, damaged, will always be worth less. But a coin that has been preserved, protected, nearly untouched since the day it was minted, that's where the real magic happens. That's where collectors compete. That's where prices explode. And that's how a humble penny crosses into 6, 7, even 8-figure territory. Now imagine this. Somewhere,
Somewhere,
someone receives a handful of change from a grocery store. They toss it into a jar without thinking years pass. That jar fills up, gets pushed aside, forgotten, until one day, out of curiosity, they decide to take a closer look, and suddenly, everything changes. Because hidden among those ordinary coins is one extraordinary piece. A 1970 no mint mark Lincoln cent with a clear double die error in stunning condition. A coin that could rewrite their financial future. It sounds unbelievable, but it happens, and it's happening more often than you think. Because the truth is, most people don't check their coins. They don't look closely. They don't question what they're holding, and that's exactly why opportunities like this still exist. Right now, at this very moment, there are rare coins sitting in circulation, waiting to be discovered, waiting for someone with the knowledge, the patience, and the curiosity to notice them. So the real question is, because once you understand what to look for, you can't unsee it. Every coin becomes a possibility. Every penny becomes a question, and every handful of change becomes a potential treasure hunt. This isn't about luck, it's about awareness. It's about knowing that value doesn't always scream for attention. Sometimes it whispers, quietly, subtly, waiting for the right person to listen. And that's what makes the 1970 no mint mark Lincoln cent so powerful. It's not just a coin. It's a reminder that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that life-changing discoveries don't always come with warning signs, and that sometimes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a tiny detail most people overlook. So tonight, before you go to bed, take a moment, check your pockets, open that drawer, look inside that jar of coins you haven't touched in years. Because you're not just looking for spare change anymore, you're searching for a story. Possibility. A moment that could change everything. And who knows? But what if I told you that one of the most overlooked coins in modern American history, the 1981 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, has been hiding secrets that only a handful of collectors truly understand? And tonight, you're about to discover them. Because once you see what to look for, you will never look at a penny the same way again. The year was 1981. America was in transition. Inflation was high, technology was evolving, and deep inside the US Mint, something subtle, something almost invisible, was happening during the production of pennies. Millions of 1981 Lincoln cents were struck that year. On the surface, they all looked identical. The familiar face of Abraham Lincoln stared calmly into the distance. The date, 1981. And for many of them, something was missing. No mint mark. Now, to the average person, that means nothing. Just another coin, just another penny. But to a trained eye, it raises a dangerous question. Here's where the story takes a turn. Most no mint mark pennies from 1981 were struck in Philadelphia, where coins traditionally didn't carry a mint mark at that time. That's the official explanation. That's what the world believes. But hidden among those millions are coins that don't behave like the others, coins with anomalies, coins with secrets, coins that were never supposed to exist. And when those rare error variations surface, collectors don't just notice. They compete aggressively. Because the right combination of features on a 1981 no mint mark Lincoln cent can turn an ordinary coin into a six-figure, even seven-figure treasure. Let me ask you something. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million often comes down to details so small, most people never even notice them. Take doubling, for example. Some rare 1981 no mint mark pennies exhibit what's known as double die errors. This happens when the coin's design is accidentally imprinted twice, slightly offset. During the minting process, to the naked eye, it can look like a faint shadow, but under magnification, it's unmistakable. The letters in Liberty, the numbers in 1981, even Lincoln's profile itself, can appear doubled, distorted, almost ghost-like, and that ghost is worth a fortune. Because collectors know true double die errors are rare, extremely rare, and rarity is where value is born. But that's just the beginning. Because doubling isn't the only secret these coins can carry. There are off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned, leaving part of the coin blank. There are die cracks, thin lines that cut across the surface like lightning frozen in copper. There are even transitional anomalies tied to the shift in metal composition that occurred around this era. Each one tells a story. Each one adds a layer of mystery, and each one increases the possibility that the coin in your hand isn't just currency, it's a hidden asset. Now imagine this: a man empties his change jar after years of neglect. He's not a collector. He's not an expert. He's just curious. He picks up a 1981 penny, Eno mint marked at a first glance. Nothing special. But something catches his eye. A slight distortion in the lettering, a subtle doubling. He hesitates. Days later, after professional grading and authentication, that ordinary penny is valued at over $1 million. Let that sink in. Point one moment. It was worth 1 cent. The next, it changed everything. This is the reality of the rare coin world. Fortunes don't always come from hard labor or high-risk investments. Sometimes they come from awareness, from knowing what others overlook, from seeing what others ignore. And right now, millions of 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln cents are still out there, circulating, waiting, hiding in plain sight. First, you look closely at the date and lettering. Second, examine the surface. Are there unusual cracks, bumps, or irregularities? Anything that looks out of place could be everything. Third, check the alignment. Even a small shift can multiply the coin's value dramatically. And finally, condition matters. A pristine coin, one that has been preserved in near-perfect state, can command prices that seem unreal, because collectors don't just want rarity, they want perfection. And when rarity meets perfection, that's when records are broken. That's when headlines are made. That's when a single penny can reach reported market values as high as $1.3 million. Now pause for a second. Think about where your spare change is right now, waiting for you to look closer. Because here's the truth most people never realize. Opportunities like this don't announce themselves. They don't come with flashing lights or warning signs. They hide. They blend in. They wait for someone curious enough, patient enough, to uncover them. And that someone could be you. But only if you act. Only if you start paying attention. Only if you stop seeing pennies as worthless and start seeing them as possibilities. Because the difference between the person who finds $1 million coin and the person who spends it without thinking is knowledge, awareness, timing. Don't dismiss it. Don't ignore it. Look at it, study it, question it. Because hidden within that small copper circle could be a story, a mistake, a rare moment in history that transforms your life forever. And as you hold that coin between your fingers, ask yourself one simple question. Check your pocket. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Because what looks like an ordinary 2002 Lincoln penny could be hiding a secret so rare, so unexpected, that collectors have been known to pay life-changing money for it. Yes, a single cent. Most people would laugh at that idea. A penny? Worth anything beyond 1 cent? But history has a way of hiding its greatest treasures in the most ordinary places. And the 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is one of those quiet legends, whispered about in collector circles, overlooked by millions, and occasionally discovered by someone who had no idea what they were holding. Let me ask you something, because one of them, just one, could be worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your entire savings. And it all starts with a tiny detail that most people never even notice. The missing mint mark. In 2002, millions of Lincoln cents were struck at different mints across the United States. Some came from Denver, marked with a small D. Others came from Philadelphia, traditionally carrying no mint mark at all for certain years. So at first glance, a 2002 penny with no mint mark might seem completely normal, common, worthless. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Not all no mint mark coins are created equal. Some of these coins were struck under unusual conditions, with subtle but powerful errors that transform them from everyday pocket change into collector gold. Coins that slipped through quality control. Coins that were never meant to leave the mint in that condition. Coins that shouldn't exist. And yet, they do. Now imagine this. A coin is struck ever so slightly off-center, or the die used to stamp the design begins to wear down, creating faint doubling in the lettering. Maybe the surface shows an unusual texture, almost like a fingerprint frozen in metal. Or the details of Lincoln's portrait appear sharper, Deeper, more defined than usual to the average person. These might seem like imperfections. They're everything. Because errors tell a story. A mistake at the mint. A moment in time where something went wrong, and that wrong created something incredibly rare. And rarity is where value explodes. There are documented cases of 2002 no mint mark Lincoln cents displaying doubling on the inscriptions. Look closely at the words, "In God we trust," or "Liberty," or even the date itself. On certain rare specimens, the letters appear slightly duplicated, as if they were struck twice. That's not damage. That's a minting error, and depending on its clarity and condition, it can push the value of that coin into astonishing territory. But that's just the beginning. Some of these coins also exhibit what collectors call die cracks, tiny lines running across the surface caused by fractures in the die used to strike the coin. Others show die clashes, where parts of the design appear ghosted or distorted due to misalignment during production. Each one is a fingerprint of imperfection. Each one is unique, and uniqueness drives demand. Now here's the twist that most people never see coming. Condition matters more than you think. A worn-out coin with scratches and fading details might only fetch a modest premium, even if it has an error. But take that same coin, preserve it in near-perfect condition, sharp edges, clean surfaces, minimal wear, and suddenly you're in a completely different league. We're talking about coins that have sold for thousands, tens of thousands, and in the most extreme, pristine cases, where rarity meets perfection, reported market values have climbed as high as $1.4 million. 1.4 million for a penny. It sounds impossible, unreal, like something out of a movie, but it only takes one buyer, one collector who recognizes the rarity. One moment at auction where two determined bidders refuse to back down. That's how history is made. That's how a coin becomes legendary. And here's the part that should give you chills. Most of these coins are still out there. They haven't all been found. They haven't all been graded or locked away in private collections. Some are still circulating, moving from hand to hand, completely unnoticed. They could be sitting in a cash register, a coin jar, the bottom of a purse, the cup holder of a car. Or your pocket. You slow down. You look closer than you ever have before. Start with the date, 2002. Then check for the mint mark. If there's no D, no S, just a clean field beneath the date, you might be holding a Philadelphia strike. But don't stop there. That's just the doorway. Now examine the details. And most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels off, different, special, it might be. Because the truth is, most people never take that second look. They never question what they're holding. They assume it's just another penny, and they move on. But you're not most people. You're here, watching, learning, paying attention. And that alone puts you ahead of millions. Now imagine this scenario. You're sorting through loose change. Maybe it's late at night. Maybe you're just passing time. And then you see it. A 2002 penny no mint mark. You almost toss it aside, but something catches your eye. A slight doubling in the text. A tiny crack across the surface. Your heart skips. You grab a magnifying glass or your phone camera and zoom in. And suddenly, it's real. The details line up. The error is there. And in that moment, everything changes. Because you're no longer holding a penny. You're holding a possibility. A story. A hidden piece of history that could transform your life. Now here's the reality check. Not every 2002 no mint mark penny is worth a fortune. In fact, most are still just pennies. But that's what makes this hunt so powerful. It's a numbers game. The more you look, the better your chances. The more you learn, the sharper your eye becomes, and the moment you find one, truly find one, it's worth it. Every second, every search, every coin you've ever checked. Because this isn't just about money. It's about discovery. It's about the thrill of uncovering something that millions have overlooked. It's about turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And maybe, just maybe, it's about changing your life with something as simple as a coin. So the next time you get change at a store, don't ignore it. The next time you see a penny on the ground, pick it up. The next time you open that jar of loose coins, take a closer look. Because hidden among the copper and zinc, among the years and wear, could be a 2002 no mint mark Lincoln cent with a secret. A flaw that turned into fortune. A mistake that became a masterpiece. And a value so shocking, it could rewrite your entire story. 1 cent, 1 chance. 1 discovery. So go ahead, check your pockets.